The Kitchen Guru, Wisdom for Today's Woman by Abiola George. Introduction. I have recently started spending more time in the kitchen. Cooking, washing up, cleaning, and arranging. This is a stark difference from when my only interaction with the kitchen was on weekends. Back then I left home too early for breakfast, and returned too late for dinner. It's amazing how much thinking you can do in the kitchen. As I work, my mind travels. Sometimes I laugh out loud, other times I'm thoughtful and sober. A woman's life is interesting and multifaceted, and my time in the kitchen helps me ponder and appreciate it. The lessons become clearer. In fact, this book was seated while I was clearing up after breakfast one day. I was sharing thoughts with my husband, and possibly the neighbors outside my kitchen window, and then I quipped, "See me sounding like a kitchen guru." He responded, "Why don't you write a book titled The Kitchen Guru?" In thinking about what I'd include, I was surprised by how much I had learned in my journey so far. For a time I thought I didn't have much to share. You might feel the same. But that's not true. As Ecclesiastes says, there is nothing new under the sun. Yet we all experience life uniquely. Think of fashion. Platform shoes were all the rage when my mother was young, and now they've come back with a variety of styles she could never have imagined. The same is true for life's issues. We share universal challenges but navigate them through our unique experiences. In this book, I'd like to share the wisdom I've gleaned. It's my hope that something here brings you comfort, gives you clarity, or inspires a long overdue positive change. Enjoy. I am not my hair. Doing the washing up after an evening meal, I catch a glimpse of my Angie Stone-esque afro in the mirror. My mind travels back 5 years to when I decided I needed a fresh start, and cutting off all my hair would be the visual declaration. "Never," shouted my hairdresser. "A woman's hair is her crowning glory," he insisted. After almost 20 minutes of arguing, he finally relented and left me with an inch of undergrowth. Despite my conviction, I couldn't bear to watch him cut my hair, so I turned away from the mirror. When he was done, he swung my chair around. My first thought was, "Abiola, you look like a heavy-set man with boobs." I wanted to burst into tears, but held back to protect my pride. Inside, I was crying. I tried to texturize my hair for a deliberate, I planned this look, but my tight curls wouldn't cooperate. It was back to secondary school days, and their accompanying self-esteem struggles. Since then, I've collected many hair disaster stories too painful to recount, all in the name of finding a hair personality that resonates with me. What's a woman to do? Today I feel like I'm the only one not wearing hair from some poor woman in Peru or Brazil, ranging in length from pixie cuts to waist-grazing tresses. I see more women going natural, some locking their hair, another of my disaster stories, and others shaving it all off. Still, I suspect even the brave bald ones have a stash of wigs for days when the look isn't working. Why do we torture ourselves? For many of us, it's about enhancing our attractiveness. But what do men think? While they tend to prefer long hair as part of the feminine aesthetic, the words they use to describe their preferences may surprise you. Clean, not smelly, suits her, tidy, and touchable. That's it. Hair alone, no matter how fabulous, doesn't make one woman more attractive than another. Don't believe me? Think of Halle Berry and J-Lo. Men agree they're both stunning, regardless of hair length. Rihanna is a stunner with both short and long styles. Indy Airy had it right. I am not my hair. This mantra will guide me for the next 3 days as I fearlessly rock my afro. Oh, and my husband likes it. Wink. 4 a.m. Club. I am not a morning person. I'm not a night person either. At least not anymore. About 15 years ago, I read the inspirational story of Mary Kay Ash. One detail that struck me was her routine. She woke up every day at 4 a.m., long before her household stirred, to pray and handle personal tasks before attending to her family. She also went to bed only after her household, meaning her husband of 30-plus years never saw her without makeup. The Bible also references a woman I call Superwoman, who rises while it is yet night to provide for her household. For full-time workers in busy cities, this may sound like business as usual. You must rise at 4 a.m. to make it to work. But for others like me, it feels like self-inflicted torture. Tempting as it is to say, to each her own, the truth is that the best time to get things done is early in the morning. before your household wakes. Many successful individuals share this habit, dedicating the quiet hours to prayer, reading, writing, exercising, or meditating. They're often amazed at how much they accomplish between 4 and 6 a.m. Sleep is essential. Get plenty of it. However, joining the 4 a.m. club, or perhaps the 5:30 a.m. club, means revising your bedtime. Clearing distractions from your bedroom, like TV or internet, can help you relax and fall asleep earlier. What's your expertise? No one can cook beans like I can, he boasted as he chopped onions for the steaming pot. Back then, my husband was trying to prove he could best me in the kitchen, even though he'd never tasted my version of stewed beans. It was a good pot of beans, but it didn't take long for me to earn a "Wow, you nailed it" from him. In retrospect, I shouldn't have taken on the challenge. He might have become the family's default beans cook. Lesson learned. I'll be more careful about which challenges I accept next time. So, what are you good at? What can you confidently claim as your expertise? What's the one thing you can do flawlessly, even if I woke you at 3 a.m. to do it? What makes people marvel at your skill? This isn't about what you wish you could do, especially after admiring someone else's talent. My mother, for instance, is the queen of kitchen improvisation. She can transform a few random ingredients into a delicious meal. Beyond that, she has an uncanny ability to connect with difficult young people. Parents are often shocked by the transformation she inspires. She's applied this gift throughout her career, from teaching to supervising postgraduate students. I've been told I have natural empathy and can easily connect with people. Once, I mediated between a friend and her father, a situation I never want to repeat. Afterward, her father asked, "How do you give words to what people mean but don't say?" I'm also strategic, finding connections between abstract ideas that others might not see. People often come to me when they're looking to birth a new idea. So what's your unique gift? Why is it important to know? If you're unsure, reflect on your past and look for patterns. You could also ask close friends or family. They often see things we overlook about ourselves. Think of it like this. Imagine finishing a meal with friends. You're smiling widely, feeling good, and unknowingly, there's a piece of spinach stuck in your teeth. A close friend will tell you and you'll laugh it off. A casual acquaintance might hesitate, but their body language would give them away, prompting you to ask. Life rewards us for what sets us apart, not for blending in. Knowing your unique talents can guide career choices, helping you focus on impact as well as income. Everything has its time, and sometimes making an impact matters more than money. That said, the two aren't mutually exclusive. Kitchen sink hands. You know how your hands look wrinkled after being in water too long? Washing dishes or hand-washing clothes can leave your hands looking like prunes. If you rely on a dishwasher or help with the washing up, you may still recognize this feeling after a long bath. These wrinkled hands make me think about aging, something we all confront sooner or later. I remember spending time with my grandmother, who once expressed concern about the wrinkles on her hands. My initial thought was, grandmothers are supposed to be wrinkled, but then I realized that inside her, she still felt like the vibrant woman of her youth. Isn't it the same for all of us? We often picture ourselves at what we consider our best and strive to maintain or return to that image. How many times have you said, "I need to get back to my size 10, because that size represented your best self, even if you're now 40 and have had 5 kids? My kitchen sink hands remind me that I'm getting older and need to take care of myself. That's why I always use hand moisturizer to replenish my skin's suppleness. I'm also trying to remember to wear gloves while washing up, though I don't always succeed. Number 5. What makes you feel like a diva? What lifts your spirits, makes you feel unstoppable, beautiful, strong, and powerful? That's what I mean by diva energy. Do you already have access to these things, or do they exist only in your imagination? For me, it's perfume and anything pleasantly scented. I'm always buying scented candles, body creams, and air fresheners. My ultimate fragrance has always been Chanel No. 5, but I only recently took the plunge and bought myself a big bottle, plus some matching body lotion. One afternoon, I was home alone, feeling drab and dressed in equally drab clothes. My thoughts were spiraling downward when it occurred to me to spritz on some number 5. I can't quite describe the feeling, but my mood lifted instantly, and the day suddenly seemed brighter. What am I saying? Life often tugs at our emotions, pulling us away from where we want to go. That's why it's important to have a personal anchor. For some, it's a song, easily accessible on your phone or music player. For others, it's prayer, a whispered moment alone or a quiet retreat to the bathroom. It could even be a memory, a keepsake, or a physical item. I know someone who wears a specific shade of lipstick when she has to give a big presentation because it makes her feel powerful and composed. Ultimately, our confidence should come from within, rooted in God. Temporary boosts like fragrances and accessories are nice, but they're just tools. Trust in something lasting. Waiting for something to happen. Here's a truth I've come to accept. No one is exempt from waiting. At some point, everyone gets the opportunity to wait for something. For some it's obvious, waiting for a life partner, a child, or healing from an illness. For others, the waiting is in private, in areas even their closest friends might not suspect. I know a wonderful woman who inspires me deeply. She married young, but couldn't have children due to treatable complications, though the doctors couldn't guarantee success. Instead of succumbing to despair, she placed the situation in God's hands and focused on her business. 11 years later, she conceived, by which time she had built a thriving enterprise. Looking back, she admits it was a tough wait, but she's grateful she didn't let the delay define or destroy her life. It's so easy to resign ourselves to despair when something important is delayed, but life keeps moving, whether we like it or not. And often, things only make sense in hindsight. While waiting is inevitable, it would be an even bigger loss to let the waiting consume us to the point that we stop living. Oprah once said, I think, we stare so long at the closed door that we miss the open ones. Live fully in the now. Open doors may be waiting for you. I have nothing to wear. As I stir my pot of oatmeal, I'm mentally rummaging through my wardrobe, trying to figure out what to wear to church. Honestly, I have nothing to wear. I'm convinced I've worn every blouse at least once, and surely someone will remember. Hands up if you've ever had this conversation with yourself. It's entirely possible to have a wardrobe bursting with clothes and still feel like you have nothing to wear. Last year, I decided to donate some clothes to charity. While decluttering, I found a long-forgotten suitcase under my bed. To my shock, it contained brand new items I'd never worn. Instead of giving clothes away, I essentially discovered a whole new wardrobe from my existing collection. Talking to other women, I've learned this is a common issue. We only wear a fraction of what we own. And let's be real, are people really keeping tabs on how often you wear something? Unless it's a statement piece. You know, that dress? Nobody cares. It's time to get over ourselves and get creative. There's a market for vintage and retro fashion because people love finding new ways to style old favorites. Magazines often showcase how to wear one item 5 different ways. Why not try it? The key is to buy quality pieces in your size, not the size you hope to be in 2 weeks, and accessorize with variety. Keep them guessing about the size of your wardrobe. As my wise grandmother once said, the dilemma of what to wear only arises when you have plenty. If you had just 2 outfits, the choice would be clear every day. Perfect body. As I bent down to pick up a spoon, I dropped while arranging cutlery in the drying rack. It struck me how much my body had changed over the past decade. Specifically, I seem to have developed a persistent middle belly that refuses to deflate. My stomach has never been washboard flat, but these days, the word flat doesn't even apply. On the plus side, I've gained a cute little butt late in life, and I'm not complaining about that. In my recent quest for a waistline, I discovered a popular brand of shapewear promising a perfect silhouette. A friend of mine wore one at her baby's 1-month dedication. Halfway through the ceremony, she disappeared to the bathroom, only to emerge an hour later in completely different clothes. The problem? By the time she wrestled out of the garment, her bladder had given way. I'll spare you the details. Another friend gifted me a newer model of shapewear with an open-able crotch section, but after being stuffed into it, I was sure I had crushed a vital organ. Girdles have always given me headaches, so I've essentially given up on shapewear altogether. Now, I focus on dressing for my body shape. I'm an apple, meaning I carry weight around my middle. For balance, I choose prints and A-line styles for my bottom half and leave the rest alone. So, what's your body shape? Find it, embrace it, and dress to flatter it. What is in your bag? Stuff expands to fill the available space, whether it's your wardrobe, bathroom, kitchen, or even your mind. If you were to gather up all the physical and mental clutter you carry around, you'd likely be shocked. Recently, I tried creating more space in my kitchen. To my surprise, about 70% of the gadgets there were useless to me. Some hadn't been touched since they came out of the box. My husband's juicer, for example, is a monstrous space guzzler. He only uses it occasionally because cleaning its numerous parts is such a hassle. This reminded me of an article I read years ago. A magazine stopped women on the street at random and asked them to empty their handbags. I once repeated this experiment with a colleague at work. Here's what she carried in her Aldo Peach Melba satchel with pink paisley lining. Cell phone, 100ml bottle of Escada Sentiment, fragrance, 2 hairbrushes, 2 combs, a pack of chewing gum, a diary, a checkbook, a novel, a mid-sized makeup bag, a vanity organizer, toothbrush, sewing kit, tampons, tissue, etc. Acer netbook and charger, yes, in her handbag. A Bible, 2 card holders, 1 silver, 1 floral, a tube of white powder, a spare watch, hair accessories, clip, band, keys to her boyfriend's flat and parents' house, a purse, a cocktail ring she just bought, a pen, a DKNY purse-sized perfume, Bulgari hand cream, plastic wristbands, spare earrings, work ID card, ID tag from a recent training. Honestly, I was shocked she didn't have a spare pair of shoes in her bag. For anyone, this is too much to lug around daily. Yet we all do it. We carry things just in case. Imagine the immediate relief to her shoulders if she cut the contents of her bag in half. Clutter reflects our mental state. Physical decluttering often has a profound psychological clearing effect. Take a few minutes to audit your handbag. Throw out what you don't need, downsize to a smaller bag, and enjoy the freedom of traveling light. How to say no. Some people are gifted at juggling countless tasks. They make the rest of us look lazy and incompetent. These superwomen are on every committee at church and work, and they still find time to volunteer. Then there are those who manipulate others into saying yes to tasks they'd rather decline. They'll casually mention what superwoman is doing, making you feel obligated to do your part. Here's the truth. Even superwoman burns out. I know because I've been her. Being a naturally capable person, I attracted endless invitations to join projects. Just come and advise us, they'd say, but it was always a bait and switch. I'd end up doing the work. One day, I woke up unable to get out of bed. I felt empty, dry, and used up. I avoided calls, couldn't muster the energy for conversation, and barely made it to work. My colleague, a man, thankfully, understood when I told him I wasn't in the mood to talk. A few days later, I listed all the committees and groups I belonged to and planned my exit. For most, I sent emails saying, I know I committed to this, but my situation has changed and I can no longer continue. Apologies and best wishes. Some accused me of backsliding, but I didn't care. I needed to take care of myself. When someone next approaches you with a request, say, I'm sorry, I won't be able to help with that project. Stop there. Don't give excuses. They'll only open the door for negotiation. For example, if you said, I can't help because of my workload, they might reply, no problem. Sarah can help you. Yes, you'll feel bad the first time you decline, but the time and energy you free up will be invaluable. Spend that time with your family, catching up on sleep, or simply relaxing. Learning to say no isn't just a boundary. It's a lifesaver. Should have listened to my mom. As hard as it is to admit, my mom has always been right about everything. I once saw a book titled What I Now Know Since I Knew Everything, and it perfectly sums up how I feel about her advice. By my teen years, I thought I had life all figured out, especially the current things my mom's outdated views couldn't possibly address. While I admired her, I wanted to succeed on my own terms. For 12 years of my adult life, I lived with my parents after a decade of being on my own. At some point, we resolved to stay out of the kitchen when the other was cooking. Still, She'd pop in and add salt to my stew without tasting it. Or I'd turn down the flames under her pots because I felt they were cooking too quickly. She always knew the right medicine to take. But I'd insist on seeing a real doctor. I'd ignore her fashion advice and deliberately wear drab outfits because she'd suggested otherwise. I also refused to listen to her advice about relationships. Now, as I approach 40, I look back at my life's major decisions and see that she was right every time. Had I been humble enough to take her advice, I could have avoided pitfalls and made better choices. Thankfully, I still have her around. Now that I understand her wisdom, I listen far more than I dismiss. I pray for her continued health so my children can benefit from her knowledge too. We need older women in our lives. If you don't have a mother figure or feel yours hasn't learned from her mistakes, find an older woman you admire and connect with. A friend once told me she only started appreciating her mother after having her own children. She called her mom to apologize for being such a difficult child and began taking her advice from that point on. Spend time with these women. Learn from their successes and even their failures. The wisdom they share could teach you patience, strength, compassion, and how to make relationships work. It might even reveal family predispositions or that secret recipe you've always wondered about. There's nothing new under the sun, and they've walked paths you're just starting on. Be humble enough to learn. The Perfect Blend. Some friends of mine recently launched a product called The Perfect Blend. It's a ready-made mix of tomatoes, onions, bell peppers, and chili peppers, designed to simplify soup and stew preparation. Growing up, my mom occasionally used a similar product called Tomapep, which was a basic tomato and pepper blend. As someone who values any help I can get in the kitchen, especially on days I'm not in the mood to cook from scratch, I think products like these are wonderful. But since I tend to think in metaphors, The Perfect Blend got me reflecting on balance in life. The perfect blend doesn't happen by accident. A lot of experimentation goes into determining the right proportions to balance the bitterness of peppers, the sharpness of onions, and the sweetness of tomatoes. While most people will use the blend as is, others might tweak it, adding extra chili or tomato paste to suit their taste. Similarly, what feels balanced to one person might not work for another. Take family time, for example. Some families thrive on weekends spent together, while others need daily interaction. But life isn't isolated. Family must coexist with work, friendships, finances, health, and more. Achieving balance doesn't mean giving equal time to everything. Just as equal parts of tomato and chili pepper wouldn't work for most, balance is about giving each area of life the attention it needs based on your priorities. For instance, neglecting your health could mean you're not around long enough to enjoy family time or a new promotion. If work dominates your life, your children may absorb influences foreign to your values. And poor financial health can limit what you're able to do. Only you can decide what your perfect blend is. But remember, the most important things in life aren't things. Relationships matter most, so make time to nurture them with your family and a close circle of friends. Life's emergency supply kit. With all the chopping, frying, steaming, and slicing that happens in the kitchen, accidents are inevitable. I learned this the hard way one day while attempting a new way of cutting tomatoes. Inspired by my mother-in-law's method, I gave it a go without proper caution and ended up slicing through the skin of my index finger. I hate the sight of blood, mine or anyone else's. I grabbed the nearest cloth to stop the bleeding and mentally combed through my kitchen cabinets for disinfectant and bandages, thanking God I had stocked up on first aid supplies. After treating my wound, I reflected on what had happened. Why hadn't I considered protecting my fingers before trying something unfamiliar? My carelessness led to an avoidable injury. This got me thinking about life's bigger picture. Unexpected events happen that even the best plans can't account for. From global financial crashes that shutter long-established companies to personal crises like eviction notices, life is full of surprises. Take a recent heavy rainstorm where I live. Flooding displaced many families, destroyed property, and even claimed lives. The governor urged residents in flood-prone areas to relocate before the rains worsened. A friend of mine was fortunate to have a close friend take him in after his apartment was submerged. Their relationship, nurtured over time, became his lifeline in that crisis. So what's in your life's emergency supply kit? Do you have savings to bridge the gap during tough times? Have you invested in relationships that could support you when you need help the most? Unforeseen challenges are a part of life, but preparation can make all the difference. Loose ends. One evening, the electricity went out while I was cooking. My husband wasn't home, and since I don't know how to start the generator, no regrets about this, I lit 3 scented candles and placed them on a small ledge behind the stovetop to see what I was doing. Because I couldn't find proper candle holders, I used my tea light holders. The result? Wax spilled all the way to the floor behind the cooker. When the lights came back on, I was horrified by the mound of wax that had formed. I promised myself I'd scrape it off as soon as possible. That was weeks ago, and it's still there, mocking me every time I glance behind the cooker. I quickly distract myself, but the truth is that wax isn't going anywhere until I deal with it. Loose ends, those uncompleted projects, have a way of taunting us. They start with enthusiasm but end up as reminders of what we didn't finish. In my language, there's an adage that roughly translates to, getting started can be hard work, but the finisher gets the reward. Imagine telling your boss, on the way to an important meeting, that the critical report they asked for is still a work in progress. Or imagine being your own boss and hearing the same from a staff member. We aren't rewarded for our intentions, but for what we actually complete. Unfinished projects also have a psychological weight. For some, they feel like a burden on their shoulders. For others, it's like being shackled to a heavy weight that slows every step forward. Completing them, whether you do it yourself or delegate, can be liberating. So I'm setting myself a challenge. I'm going to scrape that wax off my kitchen floor before I write another word. Hold me accountable if we meet again. Kitchen intuition. I absolutely love watching cooking shows, especially competition-style programs. You know the ones. Contestants are handed surprise ingredients and must create a delicious, cohesive meal in mere minutes. Sometimes, I freeze just watching the strange combinations they're given. Other times, I instinctively know what I would do if I were in their shoes. It's hard to believe that all the contestants rely solely on their gut feelings, or intuition. Based on their experience, knowledge, and creativity, they manage to whip up amazing dishes under pressure. Intuition, that gut feeling, is a gift women are especially blessed with. It goes by many names: instinct, insight, perception, sixth sense, hunch, inkling, or suspicion. My aunt, for example, never oversalts her food because she relies on intuition. I've watched in awe as she salts enormous pots of stew, certain she's overdone it, only to find her dishes perfectly seasoned every time. Life, much like cooking, hands us a mix of ingredients. Sometimes they're delightful: the love of friends, a fulfilling job, a serendipitous connection. Other times, they're challenging: failed projects, unexpected losses, loneliness in a crowd. The essence of life lies in how we combine these ingredients into something meaningful. I once met a woman who had come out of a terrible relationship. Her self-esteem was so low, she didn't feel capable of anything. Though a qualified lawyer, she lacked the confidence to practice. A year later, I met her again, and she was radiant. She had started cooking to distract herself, and ended up launching a home-cooked meal business. It all began with a hunch that staying busy would quiet her mind. The Bible tells the story of a widow who thought she had nothing left except a jar of oil. God used that nothing to change her life. You may feel like you're in a similar place, but I encourage you to look closer. Trust your intuition. It may guide you to something beautiful. A pinch of salt. I keep my 4 main everyday spices in large clear jars so I can tell when it's time to refill. Of the 4, I usually have to refill 3 regularly, but one seems to last forever. Salt. Salt isn't flashy. My ground chili, for instance, has vibrant reds and oranges with golden flecks. Sometimes I mix batches just to marvel at the colors. Yet no matter how visually appealing or aromatic a dish is, its true magic isn't revealed until I add a pinch of salt. The transformation is almost magical. Salt enhances the flavor of meat, brings out the individuality of vegetables, adds oomph to bland starches, deepens the flavor of delicate desserts, and even highlights the sweetness of some fruits. No other seasoning rivals its versatility. The Bible describes believers as the salt of the earth. To me, this means my role is to help others realize their full potential. It's about bringing out the best in those I encounter. Many years ago, I received a call at 10 p.m. from someone I'd never met. He got my number from a mutual friend and needed help starting a project. Our mutual friend had said, "The only person I know who can help you with this is Abiola." That moment still gives me joy when I recall it. I helped him start his project successfully, but there was a catch. As the project took off, I planned a phased exit, but he became resentful. With hindsight, I realized I'd become too involved, and my departure felt like a betrayal. Here's the thing about salt. Too much ruins a meal. Similarly, no matter how passionate we are about helping others, we must avoid taking over their dreams. When we add salt to food, it blends in, enhancing the dish without overshadowing it. In life, as in cooking, a little salt goes a long way. When it just doesn't work out, sometimes things don't go as planned in the kitchen. On this particular day, it felt like Murphy's Law had taken over. Everything that could go wrong did. I was preparing a specialty dish to impress my friends. We were hungry, and it was getting late. I laid out all my ingredients and dove into the process with enthusiasm. But as soon as I added water to the basmati rice mixture, my cooking gas ran out. If you live in a country with a continuous gas supply, imagine the utility company cutting you off because you hadn't paid your bill. Now you're in my shoes. Without a replacement gas cylinder, I quickly asked the house help to fetch the kerosene stove. It took 10 smoky minutes to light it, only to discover the wick was almost completely burned out. For those familiar with basmati rice, you can probably guess where this is going. My pot now held a soggy mess. Finally, I remembered that my cooker was electric and the power was on. Another 10 minutes were spent aligning the cooker with a power point and cleaning grease from the electric hob. By the time I returned to my pot, my wonder meal was completely ruined. I had no backup ingredients, and it was too late to buy more. Graciously, my friends accepted what I served. Did I mention how late and hungry we were? But I doubt they'll eagerly accept another dinner invitation. In the years since, I've cooked that particular dish about 100 times, and it's only gone wrong twice, this being one of those times. The moral? Failure is an event, not a definition. If it didn't kill you, it wasn't fatal. You'll live to try again. Life's setbacks are like a ruined dinner, frustrating in the moment, but they fade in significance over time. Keep perspective. Dust yourself off, adjust, and try again. My favorite one-pot meal recipe: Abiola's vegetable and prawn fried rice. I'm not one to use measuring cups unless I'm strictly following a recipe. I rely on what's in my kitchen: mugs, spoons, and a little intuition. So when I say cup, picture a standard-sized mug, not one of those oversized coffee bowl mugs. This recipe serves 3 adults or 2 adults and 2 children. Ingredients: 1 cup basmati rice, 2 cups water, 1 cup sweet corn, 2 large carrots, a handful of string beans, about 15, 1 medium green pepper, 1 medium onion, coarsely or finely chopped, 1 tablespoon mild hot curry powder, 1 teaspoon thyme, 1 stock cube, I prefer chicken flavor, ½ teaspoon ground black pepper, ½ teaspoon ground white pepper, optional, 1 teaspoon ground chili, to taste, optional, 1 cup peeled prawns, 1 cooking spoon vegetable oil. Refer to the cooking instructions on your rice packet. Though I prefer basmati rice, regular parboiled rice works too. Adjust water and cooking time as needed. Frozen mixed vegetables, 1/2 cups, can be substituted for convenience. Instructions: 1. Wash and drain the rice. 2. Heat the vegetable oil in a pot for about a minute, then lightly fry the chopped onion. 3. Combine all the dry spices, except salt, in a bowl. Add the spices to the onion and fry over medium heat for about a minute. 4. Stir in the chopped vegetables and cook for another minute. Add the rice, stirring to coat it with the spices and evenly distribute the vegetables. 5. Add the prawns, water, and salt to taste. Stir everything together. 6. Bring the mixture to a quick boil, then reduce the heat to a simmer. Cook for 10 to 15 minutes, or until the water is fully absorbed. 7. If the rice isn't fully cooked, add a little more water and leave it on low heat for another 5 minutes. Serve with a side of your choice. My husband loves extra vegetables, so I serve his with steamed cabbage and fried plantain. Enjoy. The best chicken I ever tasted. Tasty oven chicken. This recipe is simple yet unforgettable. It's a favorite for gatherings and pairs beautifully with my vegetable and prawn fried rice. Ingredients for 1 whole chicken. 2 tablespoons olive oil. Sea salt to taste. 1 tablespoon dried or fresh herbs, parsley, oregano, basil. Fresh chopped garlic. 1 chicken stock cube, nor is my favorite. 1 teaspoon ground chili pepper to taste. 1 whole chicken or chicken pieces. Instructions. 1. In a bowl, mix the olive oil, herbs, garlic, stock cube, chili pepper, and sea salt to create a spice rub. 2. Rub the mixture generously all over the chicken, paying special attention to getting it under the skin for extra flavor. 3. Preheat your oven to medium heat. Place the chicken on a baking tray. 4. Roast in the oven until the chicken is crispy and golden brown, and the juices run clear when pierced with a fork. Serve piping hot, perhaps alongside Abiola's fried rice. Mighty Little Oats. It's often said that girls marry men like their fathers. For me, this turned out to be true in the most unexpected way. Growing up, I was the designated oatmeal cook for my dad, who had a particular fondness for Quaker oats. I didn't like oatmeal myself, but I dutifully prepared it for him almost every morning. Fast forward 2 decades, and I'm married to an oatmeal lover. Over the years, I've grown to tolerate and even enjoy it. The first time I tried an oatmeal cookie, I became an instant fan. Since then, I've explored various ways to incorporate oats into my meals. I've even discovered their surprising uses in body care. Recently, I turned a bag of oats nearing its expiration date into a natural spa treatment at home. Oats are more than just breakfast food. According to a natural beauty article I read, oats have several benefits. They absorb and remove surface dirt and impurities. They cleanse and exfoliate gently. They hydrate and soften skin. They've even been clinically proven to heal dry, itchy skin and are perfect for sensitive skin. Here are 3 of my favorite oatmeal body scrubs. Oatmeal and water scrub. This is as simple as it gets. Oatmeal, warm water, or whole milk for a luxurious feel. Combine oatmeal with enough warm water to make a paste. 2. Gently exfoliate your skin using circular motions, avoiding the eye area. 3. Leave it on for 10 to 15 minutes, then rinse with lukewarm water and finish with a splash of cold water. Pat dry and moisturize. Oatmeal and grapefruit scrub. The citrus in grapefruit tones the skin while enhancing the oatmeal's exfoliating properties. 1 fresh grapefruit. 2 tablespoons oatmeal. 1 squeeze the juice and pulp from the grapefruit. Mix with oatmeal to form a smooth paste. 2. Scrub your skin gently in circular motions. 3. Rinse with lukewarm water, and with a splash of cold, and pat dry. Oatmeal with avocado and almonds scrub. This one is a little messy but leaves your skin nourished, soft, and hydrated. 1 cup oatmeal, 1 tablespoon coarsely ground almonds, 1 peeled ripe avocado. 1 mix oatmeal and ground almonds in a bowl. Mash the avocado into a pulp. 2. Scoop some avocado onto a clean washcloth, then dip it into the oatmeal almond mix. 3. Massage gently onto your skin, exfoliating as needed. 4. Rinse with alternating cold and warm water, ending with cold. Pat dry and moisturize. From these scrubs, I've learned that few things in life have only one use. Like oats, we often have untapped potential, abilities and passions waiting to be repurposed. You just have to try. A place of prayer. When I was growing up, my mom had a kitchen prayer. It hung on a little plaque and went something like this. God bless these pots and pans and the hands that prepare the meals. There was likely a mention of the people who would eat the food, but I can't recall the exact words. That plaque traveled with us wherever we moved until it was eventually misplaced. I didn't realize how deeply I'd internalized the idea of praying in the kitchen, until one day, I found myself silently praying while chopping vegetables. I don't remember what prompted the prayer, but as I cooked, my spirit calmed, and words naturally flowed. Now it feels natural to pray as I prepare meals. I give thanks for the privilege of choosing what to eat. I pray for my husband, that the food nourishes him, and tastes even better than his mother's cooking. When guests are expected, I pray for their safe arrival and for a joyful time of fellowship around the table. Once I'm in the flow of prayer, it's easy to move on to other topics. I might pray for a friend's situation, intercede for someone I don't know, or seek guidance for challenges in my own life. On average, meal prep takes 30 minutes to an hour, offering plenty of time for meaningful prayer. Most people desire quiet moments of prayer in the morning or evening, but life often gets in the way. The solution is to make prayer adaptable. Your commute can become prayer time. You can pray while showering or getting ready for work, silently or out loud. When I worked full-time and drove myself to the office, my car became my prayer space. I would sing, dance, and pray at the top of my lungs. Months later, someone told me they had always noticed me driving by their staff bus in the mornings. Some thought I was mad, while others envied my joy. Prayer doesn't have to happen in a specific place. It's something we can carry with us and incorporate into our daily routines. And who says your kitchen can't be a sacred space for meeting with God? The do-good rule. The do-good rule. I hate chain letters. Back in the 1990s, they came in physical form, but now they bombard us via email, text, and social media. In fact, some chain emails I receive today are the same ones I used to get on paper. Who are these strange people who start chain letters? My custom is to delete or trash them as soon as they attempt to guilt-trip me into forwarding them. But every now and then, a story within a chain letter tugs at my heartstrings. My favorite type features an act of kindness, repaid in an unexpected, humbling way. One such story involved a young woman who offered a hungry boy a large glass of milk, even though he only asked for water. Many years later, that same boy, now a renowned doctor, treated her for a life-threatening illness. When she received her bill, it was marked, "Paid in full with a glass of milk." As I prepared dinner after reading this story, I thought about a saying from my culture. People are like water. You never know where they'll flow. In essence, it reminds us to treat others with kindness, as no one's station in life is permanent. Kindness can take many forms. A cash gift to someone struggling to feed their family could be a lifeline. If handing over money feels uncomfortable, take them grocery shopping instead. Lending an ear to someone desperate to share their burdens could save them from despair. Put in a good word for a colleague. Donate good quality clothes to someone in need. Spend time with an elderly neighbor. Treat your domestic help with dignity. Opportunities to do good to others, especially those who cannot repay us, are precious. While the person you help may not be the one to repay you, kindness has a way of coming full circle. Your motivation isn't for reward, but acts of kindness are investments in your future. God, the master orchestrator, sees every good deed and never forgets. Diet and exercise. I once joined a health program. Well, sort of. I paid the lifetime membership fee, but never became an active participant. I wanted to lose weight, and this program came highly recommended. The founder had gone from a size 22 to a 12 and developed a system to help other women achieve similar results. She was warm, understanding, and inspiring, so I had high hopes. We started with portion control and specific food combinations. It was refreshing to follow a plan tailored to local ingredients, unlike the exotic ones I'd seen online. Seriously, where would I find asparagus in Lagos? The first week went well, and I lost 5 pounds, about 2 kilograms. At that pace, I'd reach my goal in 15 weeks. The second week went okay, but by the third week, I hit a wall. My weight plateaued, and I lost motivation. Not long after, the weight I'd lost returned, and then some. Looking back, I realized the missing piece was exercise. My sedentary lifestyle didn't help. My daily workout was walking from my car to my first-floor office. Without exercise, my body lacked the strength and vitality to sustain weight loss. For any effective health plan, diet and exercise must work together. Diet provides fuel, while exercise builds strength, flexibility, and endurance. Muscles atrophy when unused, which explains why once-toned abs turn soft and why your partner's six-pack might now be a one-bag. Principle applies to knowledge. Unused skills fade over time. A friend once shared how she was asked a simple chemistry question during a visa interview. She had a degree in chemistry, but struggled to answer because her job didn't require her to retain that knowledge. However, when her daughter needed help with chemistry homework, she quickly refreshed her memory. In my life, I see this principle whenever I teach. The first time I train a class, I stick closely to my notes. By the fifth session, I hardly need them. Practice makes the material flow naturally, boosting my confidence and refining my delivery. The same applies in the kitchen. My favorite stew recipe feels effortless now, but the dishes I've only read about remain just that, concepts. Until I try, fail, and try again, they won't become part of my repertoire. In life, as in health and learning, what we don't use, we lose. The egg principle. Growing up, eggs were reserved for special occasions. With many mouths to feed, my parents had to stretch their budget. Eggs became a rare treat, usually offered when one of us fell ill. Ironically, those too sick to eat would force them down, while the rest of us watched enviously, secretly wishing for an excuse to get an egg of our own. As an adult, my relationship with eggs changed after a bad experience with a rotten one. The smell was so awful, it put me off eggs for years. When I finally started cooking with them again, I developed a cautious habit of cracking each egg into a separate bowl before adding it to the mix, ensuring no nasty surprises. This led me to wonder, how can you tell if an egg is fresh just by looking at it? Eggs, ranging from white to brown, all look ordinary on the outside. I eventually discovered the saltwater test. Fresh eggs sink, bad eggs float, and those in between hover mid-bowl. This got me thinking about the egg principle. No matter how ordinary or exceptional someone looks on the outside, their true value lies within. Just as an eggshell is not the part we consume, a person's inner qualities define who they really are, whether wholesome or rotten. That said, the shell serves an important purpose. It protects the egg's contents from contamination. A cracked shell exposes the egg to bacteria and spoils what's inside. Our bodies are like eggshells. While they may appear strong, they are more fragile than we realize. Neglecting self-care cracks our shells, leaving us vulnerable to stress-related illnesses. Stress is a leading cause of physical and mental health issues, weakening the immune system and allowing diseases to take hold. Some stress is good, it motivates us. But chronic stress, marked by sleepless nights, poor nutrition, and lack of exercise, is harmful. Regular health checkups are essential to detect cracks before they spread. A friend once shared how her doctor warned her to rest or risk serious health consequences. She immediately booked a trip to relax and recalibrate her priorities. Remember the egg principle. Nurture your inner self and protect your outer shell. That smell. As I began prepping dinner, my thoughts drifted to a conversation with my husband the night before. "You really must do something about that smell," he said. Pretending not to understand, I innocently replied, "What smell?" The truth? I knew exactly what he meant. For weeks, I'd noticed the lingering scent of fried plantains, dodo, clinging to my clothes, skin, and hair. My husband loves dodo, but wasn't thrilled about going to bed with its smell every night. While I pretended to be unbothered, I'd spent many sleepless nights wondering how to solve the problem. Though washing my clothes and taking a quick shower after cooking helped, there was one persistent issue. My braids. Washing them daily wasn't practical, so the smell lingered. I considered everything from repositioning the cooker near the window to convincing my husband to eat less plantain. Then one day, the simplest solution hit me: a scarf. Covering my hair while cooking would prevent the smell from settling into my braids. If you're wondering why this didn't occur to me sooner, consider the last time you struggled with a problem. Often, the simplest solution isn't the first that comes to mind. Something in our psyche tells us that life's problems must have complex solutions. This reminds me of a story I once read. An expensive machine broke down at a factory, and several engineers failed to fix it. Finally, a specialist was called in. After studying the machine, he pulled out a hammer, tapped a specific part, and the machine sprang to life. When the specialist presented a hefty bill, the factory owner protested. "You only tapped it? That's not worth $10,000. The specialist replied, "The tapping cost $100. Knowing where to tap cost $9,900. What does this have to do with dodo and my hair? Nothing really. But it illustrates the value of identifying the simplest, most effective solution. however elusive it may seem at first. Hide and seek? Oh, that's where you are, I exclaimed in delight, uncovering a long-forgotten, yet-to-expire bag of basmati rice and a couple of sachets of dry soup mix. Hey, you! I cooed as I unearthed an unopened set of stainless steel knives and a light wood block, one I absolutely had to have when I saw it on display at Habitat. I own an egg slicer? I sputtered as it tumbled out of a dish. Great. No, I'm not auditioning for the kitchen whisperer. I was genuinely surprised by the treasures hiding in my kitchen, and for that matter in suitcases I'd stashed away in storage. Gadgets I couldn't live without, gorgeous clothes and accessories I'd barely worn, all forgotten. I remember once stumbling upon a beautiful chocolate brown linen skirt while organizing my wardrobe. The kicker: among my new purchases was another chocolate brown skirt. Sound familiar? I can't be the only forgetful woman in the world. Research shows we repeatedly use only a fraction of what we own. For me, it's a classic case of out of sight, out of mind. If I don't see something, I forget it exists. And what's worse, we often duplicate items we already own, usually because we're disorganized. This realization led me to embrace what I call a reality assessment. It starts with bravery, opening cupboards, drawers, and suitcases to face what's there. Next, I sort items into two categories: things I actually use, and things just taking up space. Then comes the hardest part, letting go of what no longer serves me, either by giving it away or discarding it. Here are some tips I've adopted. Use clear shoe boxes to store your shoes instead of tossing them into the back of your closet. Arrange clothes by color or category. Donate old items before shopping for new ones. In the kitchen, invest in clear containers and wall-mounted hooks to keep essentials visible and accessible. The key is to keep as much as possible in sight. If you live in a place with distinct seasons, you may need to store items, but when the season changes, take stock of what you already have before buying more. Clutter isn't just physical, it's emotional. Organizing your space can declutter your mind too. It was a cool, breezy evening, and we sat in the kitchen chatting over coffee. It happened to be 8 months to the day since we got married, so we were in a celebratory mood. Out of the blue, my husband said, "Baby, there's something I need to tell you. You won't like it, but please just listen." My mind raced. What could he possibly mean? I tried to lighten the moment by joking about my weight, but he wasn't distracted. "It's your biology when you wake up in the morning," he began cautiously. "It's your breath. You really must do something about it." Turns out, those early morning romantic conversations were a form of quiet torture for him. I'd misread his turning away as a lack of morning enthusiasm, never guessing it was a tactical retreat from my morning breath. As he spoke, he looked so uncomfortable and apologetic that I wanted to hug him. Before I could stop myself, I burst into laughter. A deep, hearty laugh. The relief on his face was instant, and he joined in. I made him promise not to wait 8 months to share such things in the future, and we moved on. Of course, I teased him mercilessly for a few days, saying good morning from a safe distance. That conversation made me reflect on friendship, within marriage and beyond. It takes courage to tell someone a difficult truth, especially at the risk of hurting their feelings. I once inadvertently hurt a close friend by glossing over something important to her. Weeks later, she told me how much I'd upset her. It was the first time in our decade-long friendship that we had such a moment. I was mortified but grateful she trusted me enough to speak up. Moments like these are relationship milestones. They move relationships from surface-level comfort to a deeper truth. There's an adage in my culture: friends who never quarrel aren't being honest with each other. None of us are perfect. We will offend those we love. We will do things out of character. These truths are inevitable. It's vital to create a safe space in our relationships where honesty is welcome. If we react with anger or defensiveness, people will hesitate to tell us the truth about what's in our blind spots. These moments, though uncomfortable, can ultimately strengthen the bond. Take it in stride, brace yourself, listen, and accept the truth gracefully. The lesson of the wooden spoon. When I was a teenager, I often baked for my family. My mother owned a set of shiny metal spoons, but there was one old, battered wooden spoon I always used to stir my cake batter. The spoon was darkened with age, its handle slightly cracked, and its shape uneven from years of stirring hot soups, sauces, and stews. Compared to the sleek metal spoons, it seemed out of place. But for some reason, I loved that spoon. It just felt right in my hand, and my cakes turned out better when I used it, or so I thought. One day, my mom mentioned how much she wanted to replace the wooden spoon. I was horrified. "No, you can't get rid of it," I exclaimed, as if she'd suggested throwing out a family heirloom. She laughed and agreed to keep it, for me. Years later, I moved out, and the wooden spoon didn't make the cut for my kitchen. Instead, I bought a fancy set of utensils, all shiny and modern. But baking wasn't the same. Somehow my cakes lacked the magic they had when I was a teenager. One day, while visiting my parents, I saw that wooden spoon lying in the same drawer, still battered and darkened with age. My mom saw me pick it up and said, "Take it if you want. It's yours." That spoon now lives in my kitchen, and while I don't use it as much, it reminds me of an important truth. We often undervalue things because they seem old or outdated. In our quest for newness and perfection, we forget the reliability and comfort of the familiar. Like that spoon, relationships, habits, and skills often improve with time and use. Their worn edges tell stories of experience and resilience. They've weathered seasons and storms, adapting to new challenges. The lesson of the wooden spoon is simple. Cherish the old and well-used parts of your life. They're not just tools, they're treasures. The power of quiet. A few months ago, I realized how much noise had taken over my life. Between work, social media, streaming shows, and constant phone notifications, my day felt like a never-ending stream of sound and distraction. One evening, while chopping vegetables in the kitchen, I decided not to turn on the TV or music like I usually did. At first, the silence felt strange, almost unsettling. But as the minutes ticked by, something remarkable happened. I started to think clearly. Without the constant background noise, I became aware of my own thoughts, like tuning into a radio station I hadn't heard in a long time. Ideas that had been buried under the chaos began to resurface. I started reflecting on things I hadn't given myself time to process. By the time dinner was ready, I felt refreshed, not physically, but mentally. That simple experiment taught me the power of quiet. Silence is a gift in our noisy world. It allows us to recalibrate, to truly listen, to ourselves, to God, and to the people around us. Noise isn't just external, sometimes it's the internal chatter of worry, doubt, and endless to-do lists. But when we intentionally step away from the noise, we give ourselves a chance to rest, recharge, and refocus. Now, I carve out quiet moments during the day. Sometimes it's during meal prep. Other times, it's in the early morning before the world wakes up. These moments have become sacred, a chance to breathe deeply, listen intently, and reconnect with what matters most. If you haven't already, try it. Turn off the noise, even just for a few minutes. You might be surprised at what you hear. The Golden Rule. Growing up, my dad often quoted the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He was relentless in teaching us the importance of treating people with kindness and fairness, regardless of their status or circumstances. I didn't fully appreciate the value of this until I started working. Early in my career, I had a boss who treated everyone terribly. She was demanding, rude, and quick to criticize, but slow to praise. The experience taught me how demoralizing it is to work under someone who doesn't respect you. Years later, when I became a team lead, I resolved to lead differently. I made an effort to praise good work, listen to my team, and offer constructive feedback instead of harsh criticism. The results were remarkable. My team was motivated, cooperative, and willing to go the extra mile. Not out of fear, but out of respect. The Golden Rule isn't just about being nice, it's about recognizing the humanity in others. It applies to all areas of life: family, friendships, work, even interactions with strangers. When we treat others with kindness and respect, we create a ripple effect that spreads positivity. It's tempting to forget the rule when dealing with difficult people, but I've learned that how we respond says more about us than it does about them. Responding with grace and patience, even when it's hard, is a reflection of our character. The next time you're tempted to respond harshly, pause and ask yourself, how would I feel if someone spoke to me this way? That moment of reflection can change the outcome of an interaction and perhaps someone's day. Waste not, want not. As a child, I often heard the saying, waste not, want not. My mom had a knack for finding creative ways to use up leftovers and scraps. She could transform the odds and ends of yesterday's dinner into something delicious and new. One of her favorite tricks was making fried rice. Leftover rice, a few chopped vegetables, and a bit of seasoning, and voila, dinner was served. She'd even repurpose stale bread into bread pudding or breadcrumbs for coating fish and meat. Nothing went to waste. When I moved out and started managing my own kitchen, I wasn't as frugal. I threw out half-empty jars of jam, let vegetables rot in the fridge, and discarded leftovers, because I didn't feel like eating the same thing twice. It wasn't until I began tracking my grocery spending that I realized how much money I was literally throwing away. I've since learned to take a leaf out of my mom's book. Instead of tossing scraps, I look for ways to use them. Vegetable peels and chicken bones go into a pot to make stock. Overripe bananas become banana bread. And instead of discarding the extra batter from pancakes, I refrigerate it for the next morning. This principle applies beyond the kitchen. How many of us waste our time, talents, or resources simply because we don't see their potential? Like food scraps, they're often overlooked and undervalued. But with a little creativity, we can repurpose what we have to create something meaningful. The lesson? Look around and ask, what am I wasting that could be put to good use? You might be surprised by what you discover. Time well spent. One evening, while waiting for a pot of soup to simmer, I found myself scrolling through my phone, bouncing between social media apps. What started as a quick check turned into an hour of mindless scrolling. By the time I looked up, the soup was overcooked, and I was annoyed with myself. That moment was a wake-up call. I realized how often I allowed distractions to eat up my time. Cooking, cleaning, or any other task with idle moments became an excuse to escape into my phone. The result? Burnt meals, forgotten chores, and wasted time. Since then, I've been more intentional about how I spend those small pockets of time. Instead of scrolling aimlessly, I might chop vegetables for the next meal, wipe down the counters, or simply take a moment to pray or reflect. When I'm waiting for something to finish cooking, I'll write a quick to-do list or read a few pages of a book. Time is one of the most precious resources we have, yet it's so easy to squander, especially in today's world of endless distractions. But when we treat time as a gift, even small moments can become meaningful. I've also started carving out dedicated blocks of me time. Whether it's a quiet morning with a cup of tea or a 15-minute walk in the evening, these moments help me recharge and refocus. The lesson here isn't about filling every second with productivity. It's about being mindful of how we spend our time and choosing activities that add value to our lives. The next time you find yourself with a few idle minutes, ask, what's the best way to use this time? You might be surprised by what you can accomplish. The art of letting go. My kitchen cabinets are bursting at the seams. Every time I open one, I brace myself for an avalanche of Tupperware lids, mismatched containers, and long-forgotten gadgets. Despite my best intentions to organize, I often end up shoving things back in, convincing myself I'll deal with it later. Recently, I reached my breaking point. While hunting for a specific pot lid, I knocked over a stack of bowls that clattered noisily to the floor. Frustrated, I sat down and stared at the mess. That's when it hit me. Most of the things in my cabinets weren't essential. Many hadn't been used in years. So I rolled up my sleeves and started sorting. I kept the items I use regularly and set aside the rest for donation or recycling. It wasn't easy. I found myself holding on to things just in case. But as the pile of discarded items grew, I felt lighter. Letting go isn't just about physical clutter, it's a life skill. We hold on to things, grudges, failed plans, outdated dreams, because they're familiar. But the weight of these things can hold us back, keeping us from embracing new opportunities or fully enjoying the present. Letting go requires courage. It means accepting that some things, whether material or emotional, have served their purpose and no longer belong in your life. In the end, my cabinets became a metaphor for my life. When I let go of the unnecessary, I made space for what truly matters: clarity, peace, and the ability to move forward. The spice of life. I love experimenting with spices. A dash of nutmeg can transform plain oatmeal, and a sprinkle of paprika elevates roasted potatoes to something extraordinary. The right blend of cumin, coriander, and turmeric turns a basic curry into a masterpiece. Spices are tiny yet powerful. They bring flavor, warmth, and personality to dishes. Without them, even the most perfectly cooked meals can feel bland and uninspired. In many ways, spices are like the experiences and relationships that add depth to our lives. A life without challenges or new adventures, without the joy of meeting people who challenge or inspire us, can become monotonous. I think back to a time when I played it safe. I avoided risks, stuck to routines, and resisted change. My days felt predictable and comfortable, but something was missing. Like a dish lacking seasoning, my life felt flat. That changed when I said yes to an opportunity that scared me, a leadership role at work. It stretched me in ways I couldn't have imagined and opened doors I didn't even know existed. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. Just as a good cook knows how to balance spices, we must learn to balance the elements of our lives. Too much of one thing, work, comfort, even excitement, can overwhelm. But when we embrace variety, we discover a richness and fullness that makes life more vibrant. The next time you're faced with an opportunity, challenge, or new experience, ask yourself, what if this is the spice my life needs right now? The value of waiting. A watched pot never boils, or so the saying goes. While that's not literally true, anyone who's ever stood over a slow-cooking dish knows the impatience that comes with waiting. It's tempting to crank up the heat, but that often leads to burnt or unevenly cooked food. Some meals, like stews or roasts, need time to develop their flavors. Rushing them ruins the magic. Life is much the same. We often want things to happen immediately. Career success, relationship milestones, personal goals, but many of life's best outcomes require patience. I've been in seasons of waiting, and they weren't easy. There were times I prayed for a breakthrough and felt like nothing was happening. In hindsight, I realized those periods were necessary. They taught me resilience, deepened my faith, and prepared me for what was to come. Take bread making, for example. Yeast needs time to rise. Skip that step, and you'll end up with a dense, unappetizing loaf. But if you trust the process, the result is something light, fluffy, and worth the wait. Waiting doesn't mean being idle. Just as a cook preps side dishes or sets the table while a roast is in the oven, we can use waiting seasons to grow. Learn a new skill, strengthen relationships, or take care of your health. Before you know it, the waiting period will end, and you'll be ready for what's next. Patience is a virtue, but it's also an art. Mastering it can lead to rewards far greater than anything rushed. The secret ingredient. Every great dish has a secret ingredient, something unexpected that takes it from good to unforgettable. It might be a pinch of cinnamon in a savory stew, or a splash of vanilla in a creamy sauce. The best cooks know how to use these little surprises to elevate their creations. The same is true for life. What's your secret ingredient? That one thing that makes you unique, that adds depth and richness to who you are. For some, it's humor, the ability to lighten any situation with a well-timed joke. For others, it's empathy, the gift of truly understanding and comforting those around them. It might be a creative spark, an unshakable optimism, or a quiet determination that drives you forward. When I think about my own secret ingredient, it's the ability to find connections between seemingly unrelated things. Whether it's tying a life lesson to a kitchen mishap or linking personal growth to a Bible verse, I love finding meaning in the ordinary. Discovering your secret ingredient requires self-reflection. What do people often compliment you on? What comes naturally to you but seems challenging for others? What brings you joy when you do it? Once you identify your secret ingredient, embrace it. Use it to enrich your relationships, your work, and your personal pursuits. Just as a dish feels incomplete without its finishing touch, your life is enhanced when you fully lean into what makes you special. And here's the beautiful thing about secret ingredients. They're meant to be shared. The magic of sharing. One of my fondest childhood memories is watching my mum make chin chin. She'd mix the dough, roll it out, and cut it into tiny pieces with expert precision. Then came the frying, filling the house with the warm, sweet aroma of the crunchy treat. But the best part wasn't the chin chin itself. It was the way she shared it. She'd pack little bags for neighbors, friends, and visitors. Anyone who stopped by our house left with a smile and a bag of chin chin. As a child, I didn't fully understand why she gave away so much. But now I see the joy it brought her. Sharing wasn't just about the food, it was about building connections and spreading happiness. There's something magical about sharing, especially when it's done from the heart. Whether it's a meal, a kind word, or a helping hand, giving to others creates a sense of community and reminds us we're not alone. I've tried to carry this lesson into my own life. Whenever I cook, I think about who might enjoy the leftovers. If a friend is going through a tough time, I'll bake something and drop it off. It's not about the food itself, it's about showing care and reminding people they're thought of. Sharing also reminds us of our blessings. When we give, we acknowledge the abundance in our own lives, even if it doesn't always feel like we have much. And the beauty of sharing is that it often comes back to us in unexpected ways. The next time you're in the kitchen, or anywhere really, ask yourself, what can I share today? You might find that the act of giving brings as much joy to you as it does to the recipient. Clean as you go. One thing my mom drilled into me as a child was the importance of cleaning as I cook. Don't leave the kitchen looking like a war zone, she'd say, shaking her head at the mess I'd make whenever I baked. At the time, I found her insistence annoying. Why clean mid-cooking when I could just do it all at the end? As I got older, I realized the wisdom of her advice. A clean kitchen isn't just aesthetically pleasing, it makes cooking more enjoyable. It's easier to focus on the process when you're not navigating cluttered counters or worrying about the pile of dishes waiting for you. Now I clean as I go almost instinctively. While something simmers, I'll wash the cutting board. If I spill flour, I wipe it up immediately. By the time the meal is ready, the kitchen is tidy, and I can sit down to eat without a lingering sense of dread. This principle applies to life as well. When we let problems, tasks, or emotions pile up, they become overwhelming. But if we address things as they arise, whether it's apologizing for a mistake, tackling a small chore, or processing a difficult feeling, we save ourselves from the stress of dealing with a mountain of unresolved issues later. Cleaning as you go doesn't mean perfection. Some messes will inevitably require more time and effort to sort out. But staying on top of the little things can make a big difference, both in the kitchen and in life. The gift of rest. After a long day of cooking, cleaning, and tending to the needs of my family, there's nothing quite like sinking into a comfy chair and putting my feet up. Those moments of rest aren't just luxuries, they're necessities. I used to feel guilty about resting. With so much to do and so many people depending on me, how could I justify taking a break? But over time I learned that rest isn't selfish. It's essential. Think about it. Even machines need downtime to function properly. Cars require regular maintenance, phones need charging, and computers need to shut down to update. If we push ourselves relentlessly without pausing to recharge, we risk burnout, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Rest looks different for everyone. For some, it's a nap or a good night's sleep. For others, it's reading a book, taking a walk, or spending quiet time in prayer. Whatever form it takes, rest restores us and gives us the energy to tackle what's next. The Bible speaks of rest as a gift from God, a chance to cease striving and trust in His provision. Observing the Sabbath is one way to embrace this gift, a day set aside for rest and renewal, free from the busyness of life. In a world that glorifies hustle and productivity, rest is an act of self-care and faith. It's a reminder that we're human, not machines, and that taking care of ourselves is just as important as taking care of others. So, the next time you feel guilty about resting, remember, even Jesus took time to retreat and recharge. If it was good enough for Him, it's certainly good enough for us. There's something special about looking out of my kitchen window while I cook. It frames a small slice of the world, a tree that sways in the breeze, the sun casting golden rays across the yard, or children playing on the street. Sometimes I catch glimpses of neighbors going about their day, and occasionally a bird perches nearby, chirping its song. The kitchen window has become a place of reflection for me. It reminds me that life exists beyond my immediate tasks. While I'm chopping vegetables or stirring a pot, the world keeps moving, filled with stories, moments, and connections. There have been times when the view through the window felt like a metaphor for my life. On stormy days, The rain pelting against the glass mirrors the chaos in my heart. On sunny days, the light streaming in feels like a promise of hope. Perspective is everything. The window offers me a chance to step back, even if only for a moment, and see the bigger picture. It's easy to get caught up in the demands of daily life, focusing only on what's in front of us. But taking a moment to look out the window, whether literally or figuratively, can bring clarity and peace. We all need a kitchen window, a place where we can pause, reflect, and reconnect with what truly matters. It doesn't have to be a literal window. It could be a quiet walk, a favorite song, or journal where you pour out your thoughts. What's your kitchen window? Food for the soul. Food has a way of bringing people together. A shared meal can break down walls, heal wounds, and foster connection. I've witnessed the power of food in mending relationships, celebrating milestones, and comforting those in need. But as nourishing as physical food is, we also need food for the soul. This type of nourishment doesn't come from the kitchen. It comes from the things that feed our spirits and bring us closer to God and to each other. For me, soul food includes time spent in prayer, reading scripture, or listening to uplifting music. It's the quiet moments of reflection that remind me of God's presence and His promises. It's also the connections I cultivate with family, friends, and even strangers through meaningful conversations and acts of kindness. One Sunday after church, I hosted a small lunch for friends. As we ate and shared stories, laughter filled the room. Someone remarked that they hadn't laughed like that in months. It was a simple gathering, but it left everyone feeling renewed. Just as we need regular meals to sustain our bodies, we need regular soul food to sustain our spirits. It's easy to overlook this when life gets busy, but neglecting it can leave us feeling empty and disconnected. Take time to identify what feeds your soul. Maybe it's a hobby, a quiet walk, or time with loved ones. Whatever it is, make it a priority. Just as we plan our physical meals, we should also plan time to nourish our spirits. After all, the best food is the kind that leaves us feeling full, not just in body, but in heart and soul. Leftovers. When I was younger, I dreaded leftovers. To me, they were the dull, second-best version of what had once been a fresh, exciting meal. I couldn't understand why my mom insisted on repurposing yesterday's dinner instead of making something new. Now that I manage my own kitchen, I see leftovers differently. They're not just practical. They're opportunities for creativity. Leftover rice becomes fried rice. Extra stew transforms into a flavorful pasta sauce. Stale bread finds new life as croutons or bread pudding. In life, we all have our own leftovers. These might be unfinished dreams, forgotten skills, or experiences we'd rather leave in the past. But just like in the kitchen, these remnants have potential. A friend of mine used to write poetry in college, but gave it up when life got busy. Years later, after experiencing a personal loss, she turned to her old notebooks and began writing again. What started as a way to process her grief became a source of joy and purpose. She even published a collection of poems that touched countless lives. The lesson? Don't dismiss what feels like yesterday's scraps. There's beauty in taking what remains and turning it into something new. What leftovers in your life deserve a second look? Perhaps an old hobby, a dormant relationship, or an idea you've put on the back burner. With a little creativity, those leftovers could become something extraordinary. The recipe for life. Recipes are fascinating things. On the surface, they seem straightforward. A list of ingredients and step-by-step instructions to follow. But anyone who's spent time in the kitchen knows that cooking isn't always that simple. Sometimes you're missing an ingredient and you have to improvise. Other times, you realize the recipe's timing doesn't account for your oven's quirks. And let's not forget the times when you're halfway through a dish and decide to tweak it, making it your own. Life, I've found, is a lot like cooking. There's no perfect recipe for success or happiness. Sure, we get advice from books, mentors, and loved ones. But ultimately, we have to figure out our own recipe through trial and error. There have been times when I followed advice to the letter, and things still didn't turn out as expected. Other times, I took risks and veered off the recipe, only to discover something wonderful. The key is to approach life with flexibility and a willingness to adapt. It's also important to remember that, like cooking, life takes patience. Some dishes, like slow-cooked stews, need time to develop their flavors. Similarly, our dreams and goals often take longer to achieve than we'd like. But when we trust the process, the results are worth the wait. And just as every cook brings their own flair to a dish, we each bring something unique to our lives. Your recipe for life won't look like anyone else's, and that's okay. The beauty lies in making it your own. So what's your recipe for life? Whatever it is, remember to savor the process, embrace the imperfections, and share the results with those around you. The final touch. Every dish needs a finishing touch. It might be a sprinkle of fresh herbs, a drizzle of sauce, or a squeeze of lemon. That last detail elevates the dish, turning it from good to great. In life, the final touch is just as important. It's the little extra effort that makes a difference. The kind word, the thoughtful gesture, the small step that takes something ordinary and makes it extraordinary. I remember attending a dinner party where the host went above and beyond. She added handwritten place cards to the table, each with a personalized note. It wasn't extravagant, but it made every guest feel special. That small touch left a lasting impression. The final touch isn't about perfection or grand gestures. It's about intention. It's the way you greet someone with genuine warmth, the way you go out of your way to help a friend, or the care you put into making someone feel valued. In my own life, I've found that these little details often have the biggest impact. Whether it's adding a heartfelt note to a gift or pausing to listen when someone needs to talk, the effort is always worth it. The final touch reminds us to finish well. It's a reminder that the way we end something, whether it's a conversation, a project, or a season of life, matters as much as how we begin. So, as you move through life, don't underestimate the power of the final touch. It might seem small, but its impact can be profound. A grateful heart. The kitchen is a place of gratitude for me. Every time I prepare a meal, I'm reminded of the blessings in my life. The roof over my head, the food in my pantry, and the people I cook for. It's easy to take these things for granted, but pausing to give thanks changes everything. Gratitude shifts our perspective. Instead of focusing on what's lacking, it helps us see what we already have. It turns ordinary moments into opportunities for joy and transforms challenges into lessons. I once read about a woman who kept a gratitude journal. Every evening, she wrote down 3 things she was thankful for, no matter how small. Over time, she noticed her outlook on life improving. Even on difficult days, she found reasons to be grateful. Inspired by her story, I started my own gratitude practice. Some days it's as simple as appreciating the aroma of freshly brewed coffee or the way the sunlight streams through my kitchen window. Other days, I reflect on bigger blessings, like the love of family and friends, or the chance to pursue my dreams. Gratitude doesn't erase life's difficulties, but it helps us face them with a stronger, more hopeful heart. It reminds us that even in the toughest seasons, there's always something to be thankful for. So the next time you're in your kitchen, or anywhere, pause for a moment of gratitude. It might be a prayer, a silent thought, or a few words spoken aloud. Whatever form it takes, let it fill your heart and overflow into your life. After all, a grateful heart is a full heart. The Kitchen Guru's closing thoughts. As I've shared my musings, reflections, and recipes, I hope you found moments that resonated with you. The kitchen, for me, is more than a place to prepare meals. It's a space of connection, creativity, and growth. It's where life's little lessons reveal themselves in the most unexpected ways. Through burnt pots and perfect stews, early mornings and late-night experiments, the kitchen has taught me patience, adaptability, and the value of simplicity. It has shown me the power of community, the joy of sharing, and the importance of embracing imperfection. I don't consider myself an expert or a master chef, but perhaps that's the point. The beauty of the kitchen lies in its universality. It's a space where anyone, regardless of skill or background, can create something meaningful. As you reflect on your own journey, whether in the kitchen or beyond, I encourage you to embrace the lessons hidden in everyday moments. Pay attention to the details, cherish the process, and never underestimate the value of a pinch of creativity, a dash of kindness, and a generous helping of love. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May your kitchen be filled with warmth, your table with laughter, and your life with blessings. Bon appetit.